Hey, I'm Sean Webb. It's time for another Wisdom of the Masters. We discovered all of the ancient wisdom actually points to the same one truth. Today, our wisdom comes from a Zen Koan, and it goes like this. Learn the backward step that turns your light inwardly to illuminate yourself. Now, there's a truth behind Zen Koans which Zen masters don't even know about. Most people don't understand the riddle behind Zen Koans and the function behind Zen Koans, which is that they're not supposed to have a mental answer. They're not supposed to have a cognitive answer that you can come up with, at least not until you've passed through the experience of a Satori that allows you to then understand all the Zen Koans and be able to speak to them at length if you need to. But a Zen Koan on its surface, when you're supposed to ponder it, when you're supposed to think about it, when you're supposed to meditate on it, etc., it's not supposed to have an answer. And it's supposed to be one that leads you away from thinking, because your thinking mind actually blocks you from allowing the opening of consciousness that then grants you access to all the answers in the universe. And I know that sounds weird, but that's basically how it works. There's a function within your physiology where your mind's regular brain patterns cease, and we're starting to see this as we study the brain more and more, and then different patterns emerge. And when the different patterns emerge, then different functionalities hidden within your mind that you never knew existed, that you never knew had access to amazing pieces of knowledge and wisdom that you simply thought were non-existent, those things come into your conscious awareness. And it answers a ton of questions that you didn't think have answers to throughout the universe. And so, well, there's a physiological process where your mind's patterns quiet to a point that then new patterns can emerge and then show you all this new cool stuff. And so a Zen Koan is designed to not allow your mind to think. What is the sound of one hand clapping is another good example of a Zen Koan. Well, there is no answer to what is the sound of one hand clapping, right? I mean, yeah, sure, you can make this joke, right? But in reality, there's no way to think your way through that problem and get yourself to that answer. This koan in particular, however, is almost one you can wrap your head around, and especially if you've passed through the experience to which it points. Learn the backward step that turns your light inwardly to illuminate yourself. Now, this reveals a lot of secrets about enlightenment right here. Because as a backward step, a lot of people try to approach understanding spirituality from an intellectual perspective. If I read more books, if I understand more concepts, if I just get that one extra little piece of information, then I'll have it, then I'll understand it. And that's not the truth. The truth is you have to shut your mind off to allow it to get into that space, which then opens it up into what it actually can do for you and what it actually can access. And that's not a thinking process. That's a non-thinking process. So to learn the backward step is to say, hey, you need to learn how to release your thoughts. You need to learn how to release your mind. You need to learn how to release your yearning to want to know so that you can know, which is one of those really weird paradigms within spirituality en masse, where you have a contradiction that seems to be counterintuitive. But you need to learn that backward steps. But you need to learn that backward step that turns your light inwardly to illuminate yourself. And now what that means is when you cease conscious thought, when you take that backward step and you shut the mind off, then a light, which light within the mind has been connected with spiritual discovery and spiritual awakening throughout all time. A light at the end of the tunnel, a spectral light of intelligence and wisdom and compassion and love. These are the stories of enlightenment, of the stories of divine inspiration are filled with images of light. So you have this light within you that illuminates yourself. Now, it illuminates yourself in two ways. It illuminates your mind self so that you can see your mind self in operation and understand exactly how it works so that you can set it aside. Because before you enter this awakening experience, your mind thinks that self is you, and you do basically spend your whole life defending the laundry list of things on your mind's self map, right? That then causes all of your emotional strife, etc. So it illuminates that mind's self. You can then, set this aside and put it out of the way so you don't have to create emotional strife for yourself anymore, and you're liberated from that. But then it also illuminates your true self, which is the one self connected to the universe. The one self that I believe is held within the consciousness of the quantum field itself, where the creation of the whole universe is dependent upon this thing within quantum mechanics, which we define as consciousness, which we can't define beyond having a word for it. And we can't understand it, but it's this infinite field of potential that creates part of the building blocks of the whole universe itself. And that's where you gain your body's ability to have consciousness, is because that portion of the field is there. And so when the Zen Koan is talking about taking a backward step within that takes your internal light and illuminates yourself, that's exactly what it's talking about. It's talking about shutting off your mind, taking that backward step that is counterintuitive of discovering the truth, and saying, let's look within, not looking without. Let's not look at books. Let's not look at knowledge. Let's not look at what somebody is about to tell me in this lecture about enlightenment. Let's look in, and let's take that light and illuminate within, and that gives us all the answers. Because when you tap into the place where consciousness resides and consciousness is infinite, that gives you access to the whole thing. That gets you access to all the wisdom in the universe, all the intelligence in the universe, and allows you to understand absolutely everything, because it answers all your personal problems as well. By the way, if you want to understand more about enlightenment, pick up Mind Hacking Habits Volume 2, which talks about the deep consciousness within the mind and how to get it and what happens when you find it. I hope this message finds you well. Talk to you soon. Peace.